The Sofia Gray Show.
Hello, listeners and kinky friends. Welcome to the Sofia Gray Show, where we discuss all things sex, kinks, and fetishes. From the sex stories to the latest trends in the erotic world, we talk taboo transparently. This podcast is brought to you by Sofia Gray, the largest used underwear marketplace. I'm Tracy Buss.
And I'm Lacey Bloom.
And today, we're talking about winter and whether or not it brings you more orgasms.
Ooh.
The holiday season is around the corner, or it's here. What am I talking about? It's here. So, Lacey, do you find yourself hornier around the holidays?
You know, I guess I've never really thought about it.
Same
but
here.
Now that I'm thinking about it, I'm trying to kind of put it into perspective, and I don't know. I mean, I'm a person that's horny all year round. So
I know, yeah. and me too, but there is so much evidence to that from like so many different places that can kind of conclude that there is a possibility that people tend to be hornier over the holidays.
I'm wondering, is it because the sun goes down so early? Because let me tell you,
It's nighttime real quick.
Yeah, come like 4:30 p.m. I am ready to get into bed for whatever activity that includes.
Absolutely. I mean, I think our first like instinct where you're like, oh, I wonder why people are hornier like in November and December is because, you know, it's a time of year where there's a human need to feel warmth and connection during a time of reflection, which, at the end of the year, we're reflecting on things. I mean, I think this year is an exception to literally everything. So who knows if people are even horny now or whatever. Another reason that possibly could be why we feel hornier is that we have this primal instinct of wanting to feel the warmth of a human body during cold times.
Hibernation, baby.
I know, hibernation, and that's what all those animals do. They're hibernating, but they're also getting it on, is what I think. As an animalologist,
Like, are they really sleeping for like 3 months?
No,
Let's be honest.
No, and more scientists, as you all know.
Oh, we've proven that time and time again on this podcast. But
yes.
I know. Well, I just think about, you know, there's that whole idea of like cuffing season being from like, you know, between Thanksgiving through Valentine's Day. And it's the coldest time of the year in most locations. And so I think that there's something about that it's not just the holidays themselves that people want to have someone around, but like it's genuinely the coldest time that people want somebody to just snuggle with.
I know. And if you're like, okay, hang on a second, what proof do you have of that? I mean, I don't think we have like proof, but like, you know, just like in terms, do you know what I mean? Like, it's not just like, this is the law.
That was so aggressive. Can you say proof aggressively again?
Proof. But we have like evidence. It's not proof, it's evidence. So Adam and Eve, who I'm sure all of you know is a popular sex toy company, released a survey that out of 1,000 people surveyed in this study, a fifth of people said that they have sex more than usual during the holidays. A third of people interviewed said that they are getting off 5 times more than they usually do.
Holy vibrator, Batman. Like,
I know.
Wow.
And
how
then
fascinating.
1 in 4 couples stated that they are more likely to use sex toys together to spice things up when the weather is cold, because you can't go outside.
Talk about a holly jolly Christmas.
And so there is another study that may indicate that people may find other people more attractive during the winter. There was a study done of, now this is very like, this is a one-sided study, but it was 114 heterosexual men were asked, so it's heterosexual, whatever, you know.
It's a fairly small focus group.
It's a small focus group. So they were asked to assess the attractiveness of females in photos once per season for 5 seasons. So from winter to winter. And the highest scores in the study for the attractiveness of the same woman, it was higher in the winter than in the summer.
How interesting. Like, okay, so here are the things I think about with that, because I feel like my first instinct is that when I think about winter, you're typically bundled up. There's a lot more covered up on your body. You're seeing a lot less of a person's like actual physique. So I find that really interesting, especially when you compare it to like summertime and you assume that most people are spending time at the beach in bathing suits, topless. Like, so how, oh God, I don't know how I find it really interesting. I'm not a scientist, so it's like I can't explain it, but that is really interesting.
Yeah. It's, and it is interesting. I completely agree. How accurate is it? Like, kind of when I was like reading stuff about this, I was like, oh, is this accurate to me? Again, this year, because of the pandemic, is such an exception. But, and I was like, oh, I don't know. But I guess maybe in previous holiday seasons. Another thing is that the holiday season does make people stressed. And sex is a good stress reliever. So maybe that could be a reason why people are getting it on more.
Yeah, because I mean, let's be honest. And I bet that this is going to be really, I think this is going to be real this holiday season, especially like the holiday season, you're seeing family, friends, exchanging gifts, you're eating, you're drinking, you're going to different events, and all of those things are a lot of fun, but they usually do tend to be less fun by yourself than when you're with somebody else. And so heading into a holiday season, unlike any other where a good majority of us are going to be by ourselves. Yeah. I'm really curious to see how that affects the way people are hooking up and dating during the winter season. If that means, more Tinder hookups, if that means more
I think more solo
sex
play
toy
personally.
sales.
Yeah. I mean
and that's the safer
solo play. Yeah.
That's the safer option for sure. Like, especially as, we're recording this, we are heading into like another peak of the pandemic that, they've said, I've read so many articles this year about how sex toy sales have like skyrocketed, how so many more people are on dating apps, even if they're not meeting up in person, just to talk or to find people to play with over the phone. So yeah, I mean, I think how we handle stress this year is going to be really interesting. Yeah. And I'm all for the solo play Christmas. That sounds pretty good.
That's how I'm celebrating Christmas. Also, I think this kind of segues into the idea of seasonal affective disorder and seasonal depression, which people get. And again, when you're depressed, sometimes sex cheers you up. And I think it's a good way to boost your mood if you are feeling depressed, especially now. So I guess, that's kind of like a segue from what we were talking about. And then, of course, we talked about cuffing season. Have you ever been cuffed, Lacey? Because I've been cuffed a few times I've
definitely cuffed up before. And it's so funny. I remember the first time somebody explained cuffing season to me. I was living in Chicago and I was out to dinner with a group of people, men and women, and I remember one of the guys at the table explaining what cuffing season was, and at the time thinking, that's outrageous. Like, we're talking about picking somebody out like you would out of like a catalog and basically having this like verbal agreement to like, we're gonna be together for the next like 3 months. Yeah. And then, probably go our separate ways. But, as a few years have passed, it's sounding more and more appealing as
oh my God, yeah.
time goes on. And I found it, I've done it a couple times, and one time I found it really rewarding, and the other time, It was fine, but nothing to write home about.
I think for me, like, I wish when people cuff that they're on the same page. Because, like, I've certainly gotten dumped because I didn't know I was being cuffed and they made it seem like, do you know what I mean? But I did, like, a Christmas in July cuff once, and that was, like, lovely.
I like that. I love that it wasn't just, like, a fling. It was like, we're cuffing, but... Yeah.
Because the person was moving, and so that's why. So it was like a summer cuff. It was nice.
I had somebody ask me recently, they were like, hey, is it a mistake for me to hook up with my boss? And I was like, probably. And she said, well, I'm moving in 2 months.
Then yeah.
Still a mistake. And I said, no. I don't know.
Actually, I don't know either. Who knows?
A good cuffing season potential pick.
Yeah. I have a question for you, Lacey. Do you find like it's sexy to like take clothes off of someone, and people find sweaters sexy because of like layers? You know what I mean?
I love sweaters.
Because like it's like I think what you were mentioning before, like over the summer we see bodies so much more, but over the winter we don't see bodies, and it makes you crave seeing bodies, and so people like love layers.
Yeah, well, and I like I said, I spent some time in Chicago. I recently moved back to the Midwest, and it's a process to take your clothes off and put them back on again in the winter time.
Absolutely.
So it's like a long extended striptease. Like, it's not about how the clothes look on somebody. Like I think we think when you go to a bar, when we used to go to bars, and you would dress to impress, but that is not what it is when it comes to like winter layers. Like, it is all about getting to what's underneath. So there's definitely this tease to unraveling those layers. Although my favorite thing though is like if you're taking off somebody's sweater and you think, okay, I'm about to hit their chest, and nope, there's one more layer. Okay, we lift that one up. But they're wearing long underwear thermals too.
One more layer. And what? One more layer.
So
it's
I mean,
very funny.
It's gonna be worth the trouble. Like, I think the reward is so much richer.
And it's just like richer. Funny. It's very fun. Like, just like the heat of the moment, the anticipation, the frenziedness, which I love. Like,
yeah. And there's also something kind of nice that, I feel like in Western culture, we put such a high emphasis on how people look on a day-to-day basis, and like what our standards of beauty are. And so in the wintertime, that's all gone because most of the world is dressing to stay warm, not to look good.
No, we don't care about looking good. We just want to not be uncomfortable.
Let me tell you, it is impossible to dress like to look fashionable and stylish while also staying warm. Like, it's impossible. Like, I mean, you're wearing 3 scarves and 4 layers of clothing, including that coat from A Christmas Story that makes you bundled up like a marshmallow. I mean, there's so much clothing on your body that there's something nice about kind of getting rid of that idea about objectifying somebody's body, like during the winter time.
It's a break.
Yeah, and then it's
that we should be taking all year long.
Yeah, because once you get to that, final layer, it's kind of a exciting surprise to see what's actually underneath.
Yeah. So if you're still like, hey, I still don't believe that December is the horniest time of year. There was a Telegraph article, and if you look at like the most popular time people are conceiving children based on when these children were born, we got Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. Like, that is when people are conceiving. And so then in this Telegraph article with their math geniuses, the most fertile day of the year, December 11th. Sex day.
I love
December 11th is sex day.
That there's a specific...
Isn't that weird?
I just, like, of all of all the days, December 11th.
It's like, what is December? It's like, okay, like that's just a day. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like you,
right?
It's
like,
just a day.
How interesting. I guess it's those people who are like, I want to be pregnant by Christmas. Like, let's get this done now so we can announce a Christmas pregnancy.
Exactly. Yeah. And so and I think the other things that are kind of just a given, a lot of people get engaged around the holidays, and of course you get it on. There's alcohol that lets you get it on. There's Black Friday sales at sex toy stores, which, take advantage of and get it on. And then finally, I thought that this was interesting. Winter is a time for creativity. There has been a study that's been done that being warm makes you more creative, and cold temperatures where we try to get warm makes us more creative. And so it could lead to being more creative when it comes to your sex life.
I mean, you hear that whole idea. Okay, I mean, it's not a sexy reference whatsoever, but like, you remember The Shining?
So sexy. Stop turning me on right now.
Hottest movie of all time.
God.
But I mean, if you think of, whether it's the book or the movie, because this is actually one of those ones where I did read the book before seeing the movie. But if you think about The Shining, the whole idea was that he and his family hole up in this hotel for the winter season.
And you get really creative in your psychosis when a hotel is haunted.
There to write a novel, just to be clear.
And he did a great job with the novel. The movie ends.
It's a rom-com, just in case you haven't seen it. Check out my favorite rom-com, The Shining. But but not a sentence I ever thought I would say. But no, it's true. Like, I know if you think about, like, if you're in places like, I think that's Colorado, and like I live in the Midwest, like you're basically trapped inside for like a few months of the year, and it makes you creative. Like, you want to do something, you want to amount for that time that you spend indoors. But also I can see where that would apply to also getting frisky and kinky. Is like, I'm here, I'm inside, we've got a bed, let's do something with it.
Let's do something, yeah. And I think that's a great segue. If you need ideas, you can try a Christmas-themed role play.
Ooh, yeah.
We talked about Santaphilia one year. I feel like do your Santa elf fantasies, sexy elves, Jack Frost fantasies, all of the fantasies you want to do.
Love it.
Play with used panties, do a little self-love, a little bondage, anything. Do threesomes if it's safe.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now's the time of year, if you can, if it's safe, obviously.
Yeah.
And this also, I mean, it could be it's time. Like, for me, I'm gonna try some more solo play, because I'm not seeing anyone right now. And honestly, I was like a little bummed at the start of this episode because I was like, I'm gonna be alone, but now I'm kind of excited.
Yeah, and it's funny because I also am planning on spending this holiday season alone, and I will say though that I have been on more socially distanced dates in like the last month than I have in for the rest of the pandemic, certainly. And so maybe it is winter time. Maybe it's my winter horniness kicking in.
I mean, I did think this research was like very, very interesting. I think like just because of the pandemic, and I'm like, what is my life right now? I don't even know what time is. But previously, like if I had, like done this research previously, never thought there would ever be a pandemic, I'd be like 100% this applies to me.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and I love too that, I'm sure there are so many people that are spending not only the holidays, but this entire pandemic alone. And
there's going to be pandemic babies for sure.
For sure. But if you are alone by yourself, like Tracy and I, both are, that's not any reason why you can't experiment and play and act out these fantasies that you have. Like, take the time when it's -10 degrees outside and you're inside feeling creative and warm, apparently, to
be creative. Try things out.
Exactly. Start 2021 off with a bang.
Boom.
Whether you're looking to buy or sell used panties, Sofia Gray has got you covered. If you want to earn some extra cash, you can set up your own shop in minutes and start selling your own used underwear. And they take no commission. You'll keep 100% of every single sale that you make.
If you got a kink for used panties and you're looking to buy your next pair, look no further. Oh, and the whole process is completely anonymous. Sofia Gray will never share, store, or archive your personal information. The name Sofia Gray won't even appear on your bank receipt. So head on over to sofiagray.com to start selling or buying used panties now.
If you're a fan of the podcast, we hope you'll subscribe on your favorite podcast streaming platform. You can also leave us a review on Apple Podcasts to let us know what you think. And while you're at it, feel free to share your feedback or questions by sending us an email to podcast@sofiagray.com. Until next time, I'm Lacey Bloom.
And I'm Tracy Bust.
And we're here to say, let them be kinky. There's no kink shaming here.